Hey, this is Elijah from the PyCalendar team, and in this video, I'm going to show you what's new in PyCalendar Pro 1.3.9. The main feature I want to talk about is called single event mode. Let me explain to you what this does. So before, if you had an event like this Hello World event that recurs multiple times, there wasn't a very easy way to give your visitors a way to look at all the upcoming times for that event. So what we've done is we've added a new fragment for the piecal-info block. So let's view this post, and you can see the new fragment here, view all dates for this event. If we click through and follow that, you'll notice that we only see the Hello World event. There was another event here on Friday, but it is hidden because we're in the single event mode. Let me jump to the back end and just show you how this is set up. We add our info block. And then over here in the fragments list, you'll see view all dates. But down here a little lower, you'll see pro settings. Here is where you define where this links to. So the nice thing about being able to define the calendar link is you could point this at a purpose-made calendar page that's just for displaying the single event mode if you wanted to. Otherwise, you can do like I've done here and just point it at your main calendar page. So once that URL is there, assuming you haven't specified a certain fragment, you'll see this link here below the other info stuff. We can also show just that link if we want by selecting that fragment, or we can mix and match just like all the other fragments that we've previously had. We can also do this via the shortcode. So if we do piecal-info fragments equals view all dates, that's the name of the fragment. And then we have to pass in this dates URL attribute as well, which will hold our calendar URL. And that will work just like the piecal-info block does. So I'll go ahead and remove that, and then I'll just show you again how this works on the front end. So we'll go to our sample page, back to the normal mode, and we see we have two events, one on Thursday, one on Friday. We want to click through to say this Hello World on the 16th, and then we want to view all dates just for this specific event. So if we go over here, you can see that our event on Friday is no longer showing. We can see all of the Hello World events, and we have this nice little notice up here that says you're viewing dates for the Hello World event. To view all events, click here. If we click there, it takes us back to the regular calendar mode. So if you have recurring events and you want people to easily be able to view just those specific events on the calendar, this is a perfect solution. Now, another tweak or quality of life improvement we made was a better way to allow HTML in the PyCalendar popover. Let me show you how that works. So here on the Hello World event, we have some data from the post content. But if we go over here, we can see this is actually HTML. We've got H2, some bold and italics, and a button. But they don't render because by default, for safety and security purposes, we don't render HTML in the PyCalendar popover since it could be made by an untrusted user. If you want to override that, you can now do that pretty easily. So if we go over and look at my snippets here, I have this simple snippet. Basically, we're using a new filter to tell PyCalendar to allow HTML in the popover. We have a filter for determining the excerpt length in characters. And then we have our PyCal popover details filter, which allows us to replace how the details are displayed. Our callback down here just outputs a paragraph, and we have to output store.calendarengine.event details. This just allows us to circumvent a kind of cleaner utility function that we use to strip everything out of this before outputting it. So if you're allowing HTML, you have to circumvent that. Once we activate this, though, we're going to see on our calendar, if we open that up, we're going to see the HTML is actually rendered. Now, this does still run through a built-in WordPress function to help malicious stuff not get included, but you need to be really mindful when you're allowing people to output HTML on the front end of the site. It should only come from trusted sources, which if you have anybody that's not you creating content on your site, they're pretty much an untrusted source in this regard. If you jump over to our release post, you'll see we have a few other items. Of course, we have the view all dates feature that I just explained. We have the HTML and popover details. The end date picker now defaults to the same day as the start date if it's defined, which is useful if you're setting a date far in the future and don't want to have to click a bunch when you go to set the end date. We also had an XSS vulnerability reported in our wrapper view attribute that we fixed. And then we swapped to using date_I18in instead of just date for outputting dates in the piecal-info block and shortcode, because then it'll better adapt to your site's language settings. We also have new docs for these two things that I showcased in this video, rendering HTML and Popover event details area, which will give you all the code that I used and explains kind of the ramifications of doing this. And then this doc tells you how the new view all events or single event mode works to display recurrences. Again, this is Elijah from the PyCalendar team. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the update.